here's my theory. Can I put my theory to you? This is in a remote area. And the thing about remote areas is it's hard to muster police resources. This is the difference between the trucker convoy in Ottawa, which is a city just under 1 million, and it's not too far away from the huge cities of Montreal and Toronto. So when the trucker convoy was in Ottawa, they had quick access to enormous numbers of police and, if needed, heavy equipment. Compare that to the border crossing at Coutts, Alberta, between Alberta and Montana. Very far from any police resources, the nearest city being Lethbridge, and that's not a huge city to begin with. So it made it logistically difficult for the police to crack down on the sympathetic Echo trucker convoy that was blocking the border there in February of 2022. And I remember there was this very dramatic moment, because we had a couple of reporters embedded there, where the police sort of came out in a show of force, and their goal was to scare off the local men. Well, the local men don't scare easy, and they outnumbered the police about 5 to 1, and they all came out. It was almost like some scene from, I don't know, what's the great movie about the Scottish freedom leader, William Wallace? Not Highlander, but anyhow, with Mel Gibson. Braveheart. Remember that scene in Braveheart where the armies are across the field? That's sort of what it was like. And the cops took a look around and they said, yeah, no, we'll come back another day. And I think the police are trying to figure out how to do it. And again, I don't think the police want to do it. This is some CFIA matter. And the police certainly don't want injuries. And they also know this. Every move they make is going to be filmed, right? I say it's not easy to be a cop in 2025. Political correctness, political marching orders, everyone's a critic, everyone's got a cell phone. So you're police. Now, you probably scoped this thing out 10 ways. You probably had plainclothes undercover cops on the scene. That's something we learned from Coutts, isn't it? That there were undercover operators in the saloon. In the case of Coutts, at least one or two of the undercover cops were women who pretended to be romantically interested in the truckers. I don't know, but I bet you $1 that the cops have someone posing as a supporter in the farm to get intel, to see who's who, to see who the organizers are, to see what their systems are. I bet you they've droned the place. I bet you they've helicoptered the place. I bet you they've used telephoto lenses on the place. I bet you they've gone to whatever municipal office and checked out the plans for the buildings and other things. So I bet the police are taking their time. So this morning when I was talking to Sheila about it, the question was, would she even get to the farm on time, given that she's got an 11-hour drive? And I think she will, not because she's going to super speed or anything, but because the police, if they've waited hundreds of days already, I don't think they're in a super hurry to bust down the gate. They probably want to be more prepared and have a safety orientation. There's a few moves they could do legally, but here's the thing. This is a private farm. And Drea and the other protesters and supporters are on the farm with the permission and consent of the farm owner. So what are you going to do? Anyway, it's going to be a very interesting thing that comes. And I'm glad we were able to connect with Drea. Is Drea still handy? Should we connect with her again, or should we talk about some other news in the world? Efron that she's filming right now, so we won't interrupt her. Anyways, the fact that they have not raided, and it's already 11 a.m. actually, I'm not sure the time zone. There's some parts of BC that still go by mountain time. For example, the town of Golden. I don't know where this farm is exactly. Anyways, so I think the ostrich news, and I don't think I introduced the story well enough because frankly, I don't have a total mastery of it, but I think Drea gave us a summary. The birds are healthy. The government says kill them anyways. The farm owner says, no, let me prove to you that they're healthy. The government says, no, we won't let you. When private companies have offered their equipment to do the cull, a backlash has caused them to pull out. That's very interesting. There are reports of police meeting in Vernon nearby. That one policeman, I mean, it sounds like the police are in constant communication with the farm, and that is to persuade, but it's also to learn and get intel. It's my theory that there are undercover cops on the farm. We saw an image of police hiding their identity. Do you have that tweet? I think Chris Dacey retweeted it, showing police hiding their face. Yeah, zoom in on this if you can. Agent Blue Sky, and I think that Chris Dacey repeated. Can you zoom in a little bit there? The RCMP are hiding their identity. And yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Finding out who the cops are. Sometimes police don't want to be known. I mean, anti-mafia police or anti-cartel police sometimes hide their face because they're worried about retaliation by the cartels. Maybe Big Ostrich has threatened them. I doubt it. I'm joking around with that.
By connecting job seekers to work simulation and training, Work First Alberta helps people change their story.
You know, Drea made a point, and I don't know if you have Drea's tweet. She said something very interesting, and I hadn't thought of this. She said, first the chickens, then the ostriches. Yeah, go up a little bit. Yeah, perfect. Then the cattle. Then your pets. I didn't think of that. That is exactly right. Global News is already warming up the public the fear of household cats being asymptomatic avian flu spreaders. Let's play this little propaganda clip. I despise Global News. They really are the worst. Take a look.
Now experts are sounding the alarm that it could be circulating in cats.
A systematic review shows both indoor and outdoor cats are getting infected with H5N1. The data includes cases from a 20-year period up to 2024. More than 600 cases across 18 countries were documented in the report, and more than 300 fatalities. Dr. Shanyan Sharif says cats can become infected in a few ways: preying on birds who are infected with H5N1 or eating dead ones, and drinking raw milk that has been contaminated with the virus. Often cats don't have signs and simply become carriers. But
now,
you know, isn't that interesting? I didn't think of it, but of course you've always got to think of the mission creep, of the slippery slope. And remember, if the governments have new powers because of an emergency, they'll treat everything as an emergency. A climate emergency, like we saw in Atlantic Canada. Oh, it's an emergency. You're not allowed to go into the forest. What? What's that got to, what? Oh yeah, even your own property, if there's a forest on it. Olivia, I just sent you a screenshot that Sheila sent me from the road, and I'll share it with the audience as well if you want to put it. I just emailed it to you. Sheila's driving, and she's listening as she goes. And she sent me this little note by text, and I just sent it to Olivia, who's putting it on the screen. And I'll wait just for one moment before reading it to you. Here we go. Hi, boss. I'm listening to the live stream, and I just want to say that this is typical of the state to break trust between local communities and the RCMP. I'll never forget how the Maine police officer, RCMP Staff Sergeant Bruce Holliday, that Alberta Health Services forced to go to the whistle stop over and over again, I'm not sure if I should read this next part, ended up committing suicide. And we found out that detail when he could not be called to testify at Chris Scott's trial. These ghoulish health agencies don't care what they're doing to anybody. They just get to make these awful orders from behind their desks and never care about the human fallout. You know what? I was a little bit involved in that case. I met Chris Scott several times. He runs the Whistle Stop Diner in Mirror, Alberta. And Mirror is a very small town. I think it's 500 people or less than 1,000 going from memory. And he just wouldn't shut down. He was like the only store in this town, the only restaurant, the only everything. And if you didn't want to go there, don't go there. But police wanted to hammer him down. Well, not police, excuse me, Alberta Health. And as Sheila said, they sent the police around again and again and again. They actually jailed him for a few days. They put a lock on his front door. And I forgot about that terrible, terrible detail. about the suicide of the police officer, and I'm very sorry for his family. Exactly right. To break the trust between community. You know what? The whole theory of modern policing was developed by Robert Peel. And you might have heard of the nickname for British police, bobbies. You ever heard of that? Oh, here's a bobby. And it comes from his name, Sir Robert Peel. And you want to put Peel's rules of policing? Principles of law enforcement is what they were called. I'm just going to read, you can find them in a number of places online. Principle 1, the basic mission for which the police exist is to prevent crime and disorder. Principle 2, the ability of the police to perform their duties is dependent upon public approval of police actions. That's so important. That's the difference between a police state that treats everyone like an enemy and police in a democracy where everyone helps the police because they have delegated things to the police. Principle 3, police must secure the willing cooperation of the public in voluntary observance of the law to be able to secure and maintain the respect of the public. Principle 4, the degree of cooperation of the public that can be secured diminishes proportionately to the necessity of the use of physical force. So again, the British police are famous for their light touch. Principle 5, police seek and preserve public favor not by catering to the public opinion, but by constantly demonstrating absolute impartial service to the law. These are so good. Principle 6, police use physical force to the extent necessary to secure observance of the law or to restore order only when the exercise of persuasion, advice, and warning is found to be insufficient. Police at all times should maintain a relationship with the public that gives reality to the historic tradition that the police are the public, and the public are the police. The police being only members of the public who are paid to give full-time attention to duties which are incumbent on every citizen in the interest of community welfare and existence. Principle 8, police should always direct their actions strictly towards their functions and never appear to usurp the powers of the judiciary. And finally, the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder, not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with it. Wow. Every single one of those principles is as relevant today as when they were written over a century ago. I love the idea that police are the public and the public are the police. It's just, what's the difference? Well, police do this full time, but they're doing no more than everyone else would do because we're all in this together. But to do that, and you'll notice the repeated importance placed on impartiality, not acting as judges, being neutral, nonpartisan, goes without saying. Those are so important, and really, where else could rules like those have been founded but in the United Kingdom? And we have, the version I just read was from the Halton Peel police here in Ontario, which shows that they really are universal to the Western style of light touch policing by consent. So now if you've got some distant and partisan bureaucracy, if you've got some busybody in Ottawa or Hull, Quebec, or the nation's capital, some dreary, government union worker who doesn't want to go back to the office, still works from home, has a Free Palestine lapel pin. If you've got some stereotypical government bureaucrat 2,000 miles away who's decided to kill 400 ostriches on the other side of the country, and the locals are getting uppity about it. Oh, well, just send in the police, just do it. That's not in sync with Robert Peel's rules now, is it? Because what is the community? The community is in the BC interior. Now, laws are the laws, but what exactly law is being broken by having some birds on a ranch? That's Sheila's point, is it is stressing out the connection between the community and the police, which is absolutely essential. I grew up in a time and a place where we looked up to police. You saw police and you thought, oh, the good guy, safety. If I'm in trouble, he's the guy. You just knew that police were safe and strong. And I'm not sure if we can say that so much anymore.
By providing access to job training and support, Work First Alberta helps job seekers change their story.